Hi, this is a PowerPoint presentation about things fall apart by
Jannah,
Laila,
and Aisha. Some information you should know about Chino Ashibi. Chino Ashibi was born in the traditional Igbo village of Ogidi in eastern Nigeria. Chino Ashibi was Africa's best known novelist and the founding father of African fiction. Not only that, but his traditional beliefs about the novels that he wrote and the structure of it were challenged by people, and his ideas combined verbal and written techniques while also using the English language to connect Igbo's perspective and point of view were considered as a model as an example for many other African authors. Ashibi was considered to be among many of the future literary stars. In addition to this, Chinua Achebe published 5 novels and short stories between 1958 and 1987 that talked about the chronicles Nigeria faced since the beginning of the British colonial rule. After Ashibi's graduated from college, he decided to be a writer telling stories of Africans and the colonial encounter from an African point of view. The first book that Chino Ashibi wrote talked about what the Africans faced and how for the first time they were not able to hear civilization from Europe. Furthermore, after the war had come to an end, Chinua was still determined that the people should continue with their Igbo practices and traditions, but unfortunately, over the years, precisely in 1990, Ashibi faced a car accident that eventually left him paralyzed.
this is a brief history of Nigeria. The British Empire banned the slave trade in 1807. They had not yet occupied Nigeria, and internal battles continued to expand the available supply of enslaved people. The British planned to conquer Lagos, a major slave trading center and the metropolis of modern-day Nigeria in 1861. The British slowly and reluctantly occupied the remainder of Nigeria. The British wanted to occupy Nigeria not only for slavery, but also for natural resources and to establish themselves as the most powerful among the European nations by conquering the most land. While occupying Nigeria, the British targeted the religion, culture, government, and the economy. The British asserted their dominance through violence and murder that the Igbo people could not defend themselves against, as the British had weapons such as guns and tanks, while the Nigerians had spears and weaker weapons than the British. Many people were forced to convert to Christianity, and new generations were born into Christianity. To assert dominance and force people to convert, the British killed Auca Oracle and killed all opposing Igbo groups. By attacking religion and tradition, the British sought to westernize and hybridize the Nigerian population, spread their ways, and gain more power. Although the people of Nigeria did not like the British, they respected them as the British were extremely powerful. The Igbo people were one of the few remaining groups that stood up to the British and attempted to defend themselves. This resulted in an expedition being sent to the village to punish and kill the entire community and anyone who shows any opposition. The British also sent bright young Nigerian men to study abroad in Britain to further brainwash them. But this backfired as this produced new educated generations who became nationalists and demanded independence from Britain. The British agreed to Nigerians' demand and in 1947 instituted a 10-year economic plan towards independence. Nigeria then became an independent country on October 1st, 1960 and became a republic in 1963.
let's talk about the novel first. The novel was written about Nigerian lives during the occupation by the British and got published in 1958, 2 years before Nigeria gained its independence. The book's title was taken from a European poem called The Second Coming. The poem originally talked about how Jesus would come back and walk the earth. Achibi took one of the verses that included the words things fall apart and made it into a book. The specific verse talks about how chaoses occurred because of people's flaws. Achibi took this idea and reformed it to talk about the silence Igbo people went through, making the Igbo people lose their culture and become westernized. In this matter, the second coming refers to the European men. The point of the book was to show the Western world the true culture and meaning of Africa. Most of them would think of dry land and a place with no culture. Achebe instead took to wrote in his book The Truth About Africa. Achebe challenged stereotypes and made sure that he gave Africa culture and meaning. To cancel this stereotype, Achebe wrote about the religions, the government systems, and the many vast traditions. Achebe wanted to show the reason people think of Africa as a desert is a result of colonial literature. Even though Achebe was writing about his people, he also made sure to talk about some of their flaws rather than praising them all the time.
Traditional Igbo religion includes belief in one creator, God Chukwu, and the earth goddess Allah, and numerous other deities and spirits, as well as a belief in ancestors who protect their living descendants. The elevation of the will of the deities is sought by divination and oracles. Many Igbo are now Christians due to colonizations. Some practice a syncretic version of Christianity intertwined with indigenous beliefs, and some have managed to stay connected to their roots and original religion. Igbo people live chiefly in southeastern Nigeria who speak Igbo, a, a language of Benue Congo branch of the Niger Congo family. The Igbo may be grouped into the following main cultural divisions: northern, southern, western, eastern, or cross river, and northeastern. Before European colonization, the Igbo were not united as a single people, but lived in autonomous local communities. By the mid-20th century, however, a sense of ethnic identity was strongly developed, and the Igbo dominated eastern region of Nigeria and tried to secede from Nigeria in 1967 as the independent nation of Biafra. By the turn of the 21st century, the Igbo numbered around 20 million. Most Igbo traditionally have been subsistence farmers, their staples being yams, cassava, and taro. The other crops they grow will include maize, melons, okra, pumpkins, and beans. Among those still engaged in agriculture, men are mainly responsible for yam cultivation and women for other crops. Land is owned communally by kinship groups and is made available to individuals for farming and building. Some livestock, important as a source of prestige and use in sacrifices, is kept.
Okay. Women were mostly oppressed by their husbands. The women would become submissive and do all the housework like cooking and cleaning. Even though they played a huge role in Igbo society, women were still seen as the weak. The Igbo people cared about children, which is why women would have lots of kids. The Igbo pre-colonial era was patriarchal, in which women were only seen as housewives. They were never heard. Most men would boss around their wives and tell them what to do rather than letting their own wives go and work. Now, from a man's perspective, it's better. One of a man's responsibilities is to start a family, which is hence why a woman would have many kids. Men are seen as the dominant gender. Men would teach their sons that they are more superior to women. Since the Igbos is traditionally patriarchal, men are the ones that got to work and are the head of the family. They would lead most of the trade that happened between families and would control most of the decisions a family would take.
The Igbo people's religion was very important to them and played a huge role during the old times. They believed in certain things such as a creator god known as Shukuwu or Shanik, as well as an earth goddess that was named Allah, who most Igbo people feared, and that is why they grew crops. Not only that, but the majority of the Igbo people were farmers who relied on their crops such as yams and toro, but men were responsible for growing the yams, while on the other hand, women were responsible for growing the rest of the crops.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we all hope you learned something.